In this presentation, we're going to look at a comparative analysis of the French colonial political structure and the British colonial political structure. The two tend to differ from each other, although the major outcome of both the French and the British colonial political structures were basically imperialistic tendencies and exploitation of West African sub-region and at large the African continent. The British used the indirect rule system in the administration of our colonies, while the French in some parts of West Africa made use of assimilation policy. While the British respected the traditional methods of choosing leaders, the French did not. The reason was this: the British made use of the traditional structures in choosing leaders, kings, emperors, leaders, in order to control all these traditional control tools. Where an appointed king or selected king becomes stubborn to the British, they always made use of the West African frontier force to remove such king and replace such king with another king that will be so loyal to them, with another stooge. While in the French West African colony, they didn't make use of that. Their traditional political structure was weak. While the French tried to bring in most personnel from France in order to help in the administrative structures of their territories, the British didn't do that much. The major area where Britain made a mistake in making use of indirect rule system was in the eastern part of Nigeria, or what was known as the old eastern part of Nigeria. The British made a mistake of creating a position called warrant chief. Warrant chief position did not fall in conformity with the political structure of that area, precisely on the part of the Igbos. The Igbo political structure is republican in nature, but the British made mistake of bringing communities together. The British made mistake of bringing communities together and putting them under the control of a warrant chief. By the end of the day, these warrant chiefs found it very difficult to establish or implement or enforce British interests. This was one of the reasons for the Aba women riot. The warrant chiefs in the Aba region imposed taxes on the people because of the British interests. After some months, the same warrant chief started counting the wives of these men, started counting animals belonging to these men. And this did not go down well with the women, who in turn revolted. This revolt spread out to the Owerri region, Calabar region, Yenegua region, and many other parts of what was known as the old eastern Nigeria. So there was a clear differentiation between the British political structure and that of the French political structure. The French tried to unite their colonies, or the territories of their colony, under a same governor general, precisely in the city of Dakar, Senegal. That was the administrative power of the governor general of the whole of French West African colonies. Why the British didn't do that? The British didn't do it. The British took a different approach to the indirect rule system. The French tried to bring in their cultural heritage, their culture, their ways of doing things, and to enshrine it into the life of Africans, precisely West Africans. This was a secret policy, a secret movement, or a secret ingredient of the assimilation policy of the French. The British didn't care much about that. The major unifying factor that the British created happened to be the unified currency, which was precisely pounds and shillings. All the British colonies in West Africa made use of the pounds and shillings currency. The another unifying factor was the West African Frontier Force, which the British created, which was an armed part of the British colonial administrative control The British made use of West African frontier force to invade, destroy, and kill and remove any method of opposition to their colonial administration. Those were the two major areas that the British attempted to bring in some level of unification in West African, in their West African colonial structure. Now, in the French colonies, subordinates, the chiefs were subordinate to the commanders of the French army, while in the British colonies, some level of representation were given to the chief, but they were monitored by the British personnel or the British system. The French allowed Africans to be part of the French Parliament, while in the British area, and Africans were not allowed to be part of the British Parliament. Britain respected traditional method of selecting chiefs, but the French didn't care much about that. In economic political structure or the economic area, the French tend to depend on France. Money from France were brought into the French territories in order to take care of the French colonial administrative structures. While in the British area, Britain depended mainly on private initiatives. Personnel from France were brought in, but the British area, they depended more on indirect rule system. Under the indirect rule system, the powers of the chief, who became the sole authority in his division, increased considerably. While in French colonies, the local administration were weak. In economic development, Britain depended more on private initiative. The French colony depended on aid from France and also protected French markets. The result was that economic development in French West Africa happened to be faster or was faster than the British West Africa. In the education, Britain and France educational structures and systems differ. While the educational system in France was exactly copied in France, the educational system in the French colonies were exactly copied from France. But Britain depended more on mission schools. In the French colonial territories, the primary school offered 6 years courses with the curriculum basically the same as that in France. The secondary school also offered 6 years courses with public examination at the end of the third and the 6th year respectively. Also, an additional 1 year course that serves as a ladder to the university. British colony depended more on mission schools. In 1925, the colonial office started the policy of subsidizing and inspecting schools already opened by the missionaries. The French, on the other hand, did not depend on the missionary foundation. In 1903, when the state and the church were separated in France, grants to all mission schools were stopped and education became secularized. So there were two different pointers or two different structural areas of these two European powers in West Africa. Please subscribe to our channel, click on the notification bell so that anytime we drop any content in African history, you'll be notified. Share our content to friends on your timeline, on Facebook, in Instagram, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and wherever social media handle you handle, please. We need your help. Thank you. And if you're a student and you want us to cover any area in African history, please use the commentary section and put the title for us. We'll research on it and then let you know about it. Thank you for being there. Thank you for watching.